Imagine a world without TVs, computers, microwaves, or refrigerators. Scary place. I have been studying electromagnets for about 3 years in a theme park environment, and I decided to do my paper on electromagnets to further understand more in depth about electromagnets. So today I want to talk about the importance of electromagnets, who, when, and what exactly is a magnet, what is the difference between an electromagnet and a permanent magnet, and finally how electric magnets have changed our lives today. So brief history, Florida State University's website Magnet Lab stated that in 1820, Hans Christian Ørsted viewed the power of electromagnetism for the first time but didn't fully understand it. He was doing an experiment with different batteries, and he had a compass nearby, and he noticed that when the current was on, the compass would point to the direction of the batteries, but when he would turn off the compass, the current, the compass would go back to pointing north. But it wasn't until 1873, Brian Marshall and Lance Looper, in the article that I found, it's called How Electromagnets Work, he goes on to say that it wasn't until James Maxwell further experiments with Hans Christian Ørsted, he was able to popularize the electromagnet. He actually was the first to grab that same idea but experiment with it a little bit further by wrapping a coil around iron plate, and then he realized, oh, this is a thing, it wasn't just an accident, we can use this energy to harness it. So that James Maxwell was one of the first to popularize the idea. So now we're going to move on to what exactly is a magnet. Some things that a magnet can be made out of or can be magnetized, iron and nickel. There's two other ones that I wasn't able to find exactly, but the two main ones are iron and nickel. This shows how magnets become magnetized. Now, if you look, everyone knows what an atom is, right? There's electrons, and then in the center there's protons and neutrons. The electrons, they act like a little tiny magnet. There's poles and axis on them. So the electrons have a little axis, and there's a north pole and a south pole. As they spin, they become, they generate like this little tiny electromagnetic field. The arrows are called domains, and the definition for domains was defined by NDT Resources. It says, that domain is defined as a region in which magnetic fields of an atoms are grouped together and aligned. So when the atoms are kind of like doing their own dance, I like to call, they're not magnetized. But as soon as the atoms start becoming aligned, all the domains, as they refer to it, are aligned and become magnetized. So briefly in a box, that's what a magnet is. So really, really short thing of what I just said. These are non-magnetized, these are atoms, and then when the atoms are aligned, they become magnetized. Let's see. Therefore, you can think of a magnet domain as a miniature magnet. So what are the differences between an electromagnet and a permanent magnet? So to my observations and in magnet labs, they also show that permanent magnets are like those that you see in your refrigerator. They're constantly sticking. You don't touch them. They're just sticking there. They stick around for a while. They do tend to wear off after a while, but it takes a long, long time, and it takes lots of effort for you to actually demagnetize a permanent magnet. An electromagnet, you can just turn it on and off with electricity. So when there's a current of electricity, the magnet becomes magnetized, and as soon as you turn it off, it becomes demagnetized. For example, pretend this is like an iron, a little nail of iron. We put a coil around it. We attach each end to a battery. So this would be positive and this would be negative. As the electric current goes through, it wraps around, causing this electric magnetic field, causing this piece of iron to be temporarily magnetized. As soon as we turn off the electricity, it's no longer magnetized. How electromagnetics are used today? In our civilization, we use electromagnetics all the time. We needed electromagnetics to use TVs, microwaves, lots of things. MRI scans, they use electromagnets to see inside of our bodies, to clean up our environment. Motors use electromagnets, and California Screaming, which is the one item that I've been studying in depth, uses electromagnets. These white bars are electromagnets, or they're called linear induction motors, and they're turned on and off, pulling the car from 0 to 55 miles an hour in less than 6 seconds. It's really cool. Go. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. So to recap today, I talked to you about electromagnets, who invented them, when they were invented, and how they were invented. What is the difference between an electromagnet and a permanent magnet, and how we use them today in our society. And in conclusion, I feel like electromagnets are very important in our world, because without them, our world would be very scary, dirty, boring place to live in. So I'll leave you with a quote for Isaac Newton. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. And if it wasn't for Joseph Henry standing on the shoulders of Hans Christian Ørsted with his experiment, we wouldn't have electromagnets. Thank you.
So, Amber.
Okay, so her topic was importance of electromagnets. I thought she had a good hook. She made it funny, and the pictures made it funny, so it kind of intrigued us all, and we all were paying attention. She had very good examples to make you connect, and she had good sightings. She said who told her the information, or she found the information. She had really good info. She had a lot of information, but she needed to slow down. It was really hard to stay with you. I mean, I know some basic science stuff, but I didn't know a lot of it, and it was really hard to keep up with you.
You don't know all the protons and the neutrons and the electrons?
Everyone knows atoms. And then you had good visuals. You explained it really well, because obviously you know this stuff, and that helped out a lot when I couldn't keep up. The visuals helped, and you explained them by putting them out. And you need to point out the main points better. I couldn't really figure out what the main points you were talking about, because you just kept going, because it's hard to keep up. But yeah, but overall it's good. A lot of information.
And she knows all about the speed thing,
Yes, I know. Trust me, I was
Speak
really
from
nervous.
experience. There you go. All right. I think the visualization at the beginning is pretty good. I think the picture came up just a little bit slower than you meant it to. It needed to be up there right when you hit that one particular point. It would have gotten a better laugh. But as it was, it worked pretty well. And then it was off. The topic's clear. And I know exactly what Amber's talking about, because the rushing thing starts at the very beginning. You rush through your purpose statement. You rush through the preview. I can see that there's a structure here. I know where you're going, but you don't sound like you're interested in talking to us about it. You're just, let me just check this off of my list, because this is something that I have to do. Instead of thinking about what it is that you're doing for the audience, it's, well, let me get this out of the way, and I'll go on and talk about what I want to talk about. I thought that you had good supporting material. The visuals, I think, are pretty effective. As I look at it, I think a little bit more about what you have at the end, and I think, that might be more appropriate to have at the beginning of the speech. Why are we talking about this? Why is this important? Why is this something that we need to know about the difference between electromagnets and the so-called permanent magnets? Because we use it every day. Let me show you some of the ways that we use it, blah, 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 and you show us the MRIs and the Disneyland park thing and all that kind of stuff. Those are the kinds of things. Those are just some obvious things. There are 1,000 other uses. So that's why electromagnets matter. Now, how is electromagnet different than a permanent magnet? And then you can go into your explanation. As I think about it, it seems to me like that would be a more intriguing way to talk about it, because then we know a little bit more why we're listening to all this technical stuff at the beginning. And I think it would increase the motivation of the audience. This is kind of hindsight right now, because as I'm thinking about it, it makes perfect sense the way you did it also. It's clear. It's not that there's a problem with it being clear. It's a problem about keeping the audience interested. And like I said, looking back at it now, I think maybe doing it the other way would have made it a little bit more effective for the audience. You cited the information pretty clearly. The visuals are fine for the most part. I understand what Amber's talking about. Sometimes you're rushing through some principles that people might have some familiarity with, but the scientific principles go by pretty quickly. You're trying to do a lot in a short amount of time. That makes it tough. The delivery, we've mentioned the speed issue. I'm going to mention the little pad. The little pad makes it look like I'm on a shopping list. You know, got that, got that, got that, got that, and you're just going through and that's another thing that re-emphasizes this notion that you're not really thinking so much about the audience as it is, I'm just trying to get through this speech, and that's not really what you want to do. It gives, I think, a bad impression. So it's not a big deal right now, but something to be thinking about. You watch the speech and see if you don't feel the same way when you're watching your speech. Okay?